Welcome to the Word on the Street podcast, coming back at you again. It is Tuesday, October 22nd, the year 2000. Chael, as always, coming to you live from Austin, Texas, other parts of the world as well. I have my usual co-hosts, of course, Jake from the MMA podcast, and I got Ross, the best Jew in the business, Finkelstein. How you doing, fellas?
Doing well.
Doing real well.
We also have some great guests on the show. We have them on right now. We're going to get straight to them. First is a friend. He's also, I like to think of him as a co-host, one of the co-founders of the show. He is the living legend himself, Coach Jamie Huey. How are you doing, Coach?
I'm good, fellas. What's happening?
Yeah, the usual, just getting over a bunch of stuff, sicknesses, weddings, UFC 166. I'll talk about that in a second, how I actually saw UFC 166 in Houston the last couple fights. I had to sneak away from my brother's wedding. Nobody was the wiser. I'll also talk about how, I swear for a second, I saw Junior Dos Santos shapeshift into a reptilian alien or some crap. I swear I saw something weird. I'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about TUF Brazil, Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. But first and foremost, we have a special guest tonight. I don't even believe it myself. He is, I'm saying it right now, one of the greatest welterweights in UFC history, currently fighting at 170. He is a personal hero of the show, none other than Mike Pierce. Mike Pierce, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, guys. Good to be here.
I can't stress enough. I'm actually nervous here. Usually don't get this way. You know, we've interviewed legends such as, you heard him, Bob Sapp. But now we got Mike Pierce, who I think is a contender, an uncrowned champion. I can't say enough about it, but enough about me. Mike, first things first, what is the latest damage report on the leg after the fight with Paul Harris? Is it still looking like it'll rehab on its own, or are we looking at some surgery? What's the latest report?
Yeah, well, the good news is the doctor doesn't think it's going to need surgery. I got the MRI results back a little bit ago. And the knee, is just having a sprained MCL on the knee. The ankle, though, had more damage on the outside left part of my ankle, where the ankle bone's at. I have an almost completely torn ligament there. But, the doctor said, with the amount of swelling that I had, which really wasn't that much, and me having the ability to kind of walk around on it as normal, he doesn't think it's going to need any surgery. He told me to come back and see him in 2 to 3 weeks, kind of reevaluate to see how the healing process has been going, and kind of go from there and figure out when it's appropriate to get back in the octagon and start whooping some butt.
No, I hear you, man. I feel for you. I've been suffering with a bad knee for almost 2 years now. Need to get that rehab myself. Are you current? I gotta ask. Does a fighter like you? I mean, you're a tough guy, but I mean, it sounds like some stuff's torn there, sore, swollen, inflamed. Does a fighter like Mike Pierce take any painkillers, or are you just toughing through it?
No, I didn't take any painkillers, not even after the fight.
Damn.
just a little bit of ice and compression, and that's about it.
Oh, that's cool. Well, all right. So if you're not all doped up, what does a fighter like Mike Pierce? What do you do when you're sidelined with an injury? I mean, do you get to catch up on TV shows and movies? Are you eating a bunch of pizza and cheeseburgers? Are you playing video games? What's the word on the street?
Well, a little bit of that, I guess. I get to watch some TV shows, but which is what I was doing just before I got the call. I almost actually forgot about this. I was just sitting there watching a TV show, and I was like, who's calling me at 9 o'clock? Oh, yeah. Word on the street. So, yeah, I get to do a little bit of that, but, the smarter thing to do, which I've been doing, is just taking care of my body, just doing the icing and the rehab, taking it easy so I can get back on my feet and get back in the octagon as soon as possible. But it allows me to catch up on some other things too that I love doing. I love, going to the coast. I love spearfishing and all that kind of stuff. And I did ask the doctor if, that particular activity was going to be too much or not. And he said no, because, when you're diving and doing all that sort of stuff, you're not really putting in a lot of load on your legs and joints and stuff. So it should be fine. And it's been a lot of fun. And just like I said, waiting for this injury to kind of get better so I can get back in there.
Yeah. The word on the street was that you were somewhat of a gamer. Is that true? Are you a video gamer? What's happening?
Yeah, I love playing games. I actually I used to play, as a kid. I started out with the Nintendo Entertainment System and then Super Nintendo and so on and so forth.
Man.
But, as the years kind of went on, I got more interested in playing games on the computer because you can, do different things to the game's bottom and add certain things to them and play them a lot differently. I have more control over that than, say, the console-based games. And I like playing games every now and then, but I haven't been so much into it in the past few months. But need another good game. You got any good games?
Everybody's playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and I got to say,
it hasn't come out on PC yet. That's what I keep waiting for.
Yeah, I'm gonna mod the hell out of that when it comes out too. I can't
Absolutely.
wait for that. But no, it's worth playing on console though. In the meantime, it's probably gonna take a long time for them to figure out that PC shit. I don't know, but yeah, that'll definitely.
Well, and half the time they always come out with the PC version. It's always buggy as hell, but whatever, it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely play that when it comes out. Well, on PC, then I don't think I can recommend anything off the top of my head. But anyway, sorry. Moving on. Well, actually, Coach Huey, Mike Pierce, he seems to be a pretty laid back, fun guy, but he's a little bit. I've noticed in the media and stuff in the public spotlight, he's a little quiet. Coach, he's kind of the opposite of a Chael Sonnen in some ways. So, Coach, can you vouch for Mike? Is he as good of a guy as he seems? Or is there some kind of hidden darkness that he's been keeping from everyone?
Oh no, Mike's as good as they come, man. We've been friends for a long time, and Mike is definitely a kickback dude until the bell rings, and then it's all business. Ironically, you guys were talking about Grand Theft Auto, and I've never been a video game guy myself, but I can't remember where we were. I was with Mike. I was cornering him for one of his fights, and we were in the hotel, and he was playing Grand Theft Auto. That was one of the few games I could actually watch somebody else play and had fun doing it. I can't remember where
it's one of those games.
It was, yeah. We were, running cars over old ladies and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it was actually, yeah. But definitely. Mike's a good kickback guy until the bell rings, and then you don't want to be the guy on the other side of the cage looking at him. That's for sure.
Oh hell no, man. Now, Mike, I was doing some research, some interview research, being the consummate journalist that I am, and I noticed I was looking at your fight record, which is excellent, by the way. I noticed it says you fought Mike Dolce in 2007. Like I didn't even know I didn't even know Mike Dolce fought. So can you tell us about that fight? What happened?
Oh man, there's a lot of history with that one.
Because I know the ending.
Yeah,
I just want to hear.
So Mike Dolce and I, ironically, when I was still an amateur, was one of the guys that first cornered some of my amateur fights. And so he was a coach for a little while I started off at Team Quest. I got away from there, was at a different gym, became pro, and a lot of guys at the gym, or at Team Quest rather, didn't really like, for whatever reason, me leaving and going to this other gym, and Dolce and I just, for whatever reason, really kind of got off on the wrong foot and didn't like each other there for a while, and we had words back and forth on one of the local fight forums about looking forward to fighting each other, and it was this big drawn out thing. We finally got to fight each other. And, I told him before, I was like, dude, I don't even want to knock you out. I don't want to submit you. I just want to beat your ass for 15 minutes straight. Like, I'm not even going to look to submit you or knock you out. But, ironically, he was the guy that was always known for knockouts and having quick knockouts. Mm-hmm. And, at the start of the fight, actually before the fight, I raised my hand to see if he wanted to touch gloves. And he just had like this disturbing, like sadistic, I want to murder you look in his face, and he just shook his head no, like, no, I'm just gonna go out here and fight. Like, okay. And so the bell rung, we go out there, and my whole game plan was just to throw a right cross as hard as I could, whether hit him or not, just go for the takedown, because I knew that he wasn't very exceptional on the ground. And so I threw that right for all I was worth, and it just caught him perfect right on the button, and I got the knockout. It was a one-punch knockout in 5 seconds. And so that set the sport fight record for the fastest knockout, and it's one of the fastest knockouts of all time in MMA. So
definitely,
yeah, that was.
Like, I couldn't believe it when I saw it, man. And then I was like, Mike Dolce, what the fuck? So your game plan was just like the basic schoolyard fight. Just throw something as hard as you can, and it actually worked. Are you still friends with Mike Dolce, or is he just hanging his head in shame and reminded of that every time he sees you?
No, we're on good terms now. In fact, by the time the fight happened, we were kind of over it anyway, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. But of course, after the fight, we were cool with each other. Talked to him off and on, obviously since then, and he's totally a great guy. I don't have any problem with him at all.
That's awesome. Do you know if there's a video out there floating around on the internet of this 5-second fight?
There is somewhere. I've seen it. And you can actually see that it was 5 seconds because they have like the little video time lapse thing at the bottom. So you can just look it up, sport fight, type in my name and Mike Dolce's name, and I'm sure it'll come up on YouTube.
Nice.
Somewhere.
Is it safe to say that was the easiest fight you've ever had?
Well, yeah.
Not a knock against Mike, but I mean.
No, but I mean, if you're in there for only 5 seconds, how hard is it,
Yeah, man. Sorry, Mike, but he went on to bigger and better things. It's probably better. It was probably better for him, right? In the end.
Yeah. Well, he certainly found his niche. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's a beast now at what he does. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a tycoon, and he's nailed a new market. Actually, it's weird, but thank God. Mike Pierce, you if I'm correct, you do have kids, is that right?
I have one daughter, yes. She'll actually be 2 November 2nd.
Okay. I always like to ask any fighter with kids this question, like MMA parenting sort of. What approach are you going to use about bullies? What are you going to teach your daughter, or if you ever have a son, about dealing with bullies? Are you going to tell them to take it or fight back? What's...
Well, of course, you're not going to look. I dealt with my parents taught me how to deal with bullies too. You don't take their crap. You try and do the right thing first. Tell a teacher, tell an adult, grown up, somebody, to maybe take care of the situation first. But if you're kind of in that situation where you're kind of backed up against the wall, they start beating on you. You don't let somebody beat on you. You defend yourself. And so if it comes to that, yeah, fight back for all you're worth. And so I don't think that's a bad tactic with a bully or anybody that kind of crosses that line.
Yeah, I interviewed a fighter named Keto Andrews. He was saying he told his kids, not to fight back, but never to punch another kid in the face for some reason. No punches to the head. I don't know why. I should have asked him. But no, I'd say...
Yeah, I'm not all about that. I'd say do whatever it takes to, make sure it doesn't happen again.
Hell yeah, man. That's Mike Pierce for you. Jake has a question for you after this. I just have another one here. I checked out the quote, official UFC rankings earlier today. And for some damn reason, you're not listed in the top 10 welterweights. Meanwhile, there's a guy like Nick Diaz who's listed at number 6, despite the fact that he's lost his last 2 UFC fights, and you have the better UFC fight record. Do you even bother looking at the rankings? Is it a joke to you? I'm just wondering what your take is on that ranking system.
I had to deal with ranking systems and people's opinions of who they think is number 1, 2, and 3, and so on forth. With wrestling, that stuff never mattered to me at all. I don't care what the UFC rankings are either. Yeah. They mean nothing to me. They're just somebody's opinion or several people's opinion of where they think guys stack up in the division. And frankly, I don't care what they think. I'm going to go out there when those doors close and beat the piss out of whoever's across from me. I don't care where they think they're placed at in the lineup or ranking system. So, I just could care less about those. I don't know who's in the top 10, really. I couldn't tell you from 1 to 10 who it is, but there are certainly guys in there that make me scratch my head as to why the hell they were there in the first place or why someone thought they deserved to be there. But again, it's more of a joke to me than anything.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. At least in the welterweight division, this thing is all screwed up. You've gotten screwed. Let's face it. Everyone knows you've gotten screwed on a number of big fights. Just bad decisions that didn't go your way. I mean, you've gotten screwed. I'm sorry to say it. If you could rematch anyone from the past, though, who would you want to fight again so there wouldn't be any more questions about it? If you had to name one,
man,
there's too many to name. I know, like. You've been downright robbed more times than our friend Yao the Truth, who lives in Queens.
Yeah. Well, as far as the rematching, I mean, there's only 2 people I think would be fun to rematch, and that would be Hendricks, and oh God, who else would I want to go against? John Fitch. He's another one. My second fight in the UFC, John Fitch. Yeah, both those guys were tough. My head really wasn't in it for the Hendricks fight. I was still pretty, new, and then finding my groove in the UFC when I fought Fitch, and really obviously grown from that fight. So I think either of those guys would be a lot of fun. But the Koscheck fight, I feel I won that one. It makes no sense for me to go back and beat him again, so I don't really care.
Oh, yeah. I have to disagree. It makes perfect sense for you to go back there and beat him some more, just for the fans, I would love nothing more than to see Koscheck get destroyed and retired by you, man. You got to do it someday. If they ever offer it to you, just do it for me, for the streets.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
Jake from the MMA Podcast, you're on with UFC welterweight Mike Pierce. What do you got, Jake?
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for taking a minute with us. I got to start with a very, very serious question. Why the hate against console games? I don't understand you PC nuts.
Well, it's not really hate against it. I just like having more control to do what I want to the game. Like, if you take Bethesda games, for example, whether it's the Elder Scrolls series or you take a look at the Fallout series. I mean, that game is so moddable and so awesome on the PC that it would be a waste of time to do it on a console, because you can have so much more fun on a PC. That's just one example, but I really like the aspect of the PCs because you can still do all the online multiplayer stuff just like you can with the consoles, but you have kind of more reign to do what you want on like the storyline, the single player version.
True. I'll switch it back up to MMA. For my money, Mike Pierce versus David Mitchell at UFC 162. That was the most horrendous placement of a fight on a card ever. I can't believe you were on the Facebook prelims. And I've said it a million times. I'll make it 1,000,001. Mike Pierce is the most underrated fighter in the UFC. Do you have any theories on why you're such an underrated welterweight?
No idea, man. I've been trying to be that more exciting fighter, the guy that wants to go in and, have wars or have nice, fantastic finishes, whether they be TKOs on the ground or that one punch knockout, whatever it may be. And I've tried doing that in the last several fights, and it hasn't really seemed to get me anywhere. So we'll see, man. I really don't know.
Word. Well, I got to ask you about your last fight. Were you planning on engaging Paul Harris on the mat, kind of like Alan Belcher did, or was that something you didn't want to do at all?
Yes and no. I mean, if it went to the ground, I felt good enough to avoid his one and only threat, which was the leg lock. When I engaged him right at the start, I do my homework. I've seen the guy isn't very active on his feet. He just kind of, is flat-footed, doesn't move around a lot. And I came out there. I wanted to do a lot of quick movement, see what he did, and then go in for my attack. Well, I saw he obviously wasn't moving around. It was the same old stuff that I'd seen on film. And so I led with a jab, left hook, cross, and I landed them all solid, man. And I knew that he was hurt, and I knew I rung his bell. I mean, after you've done this, enough times, when you've connected on somebody and when they're hurt. And, I was just like, oh my God, that happened so quick. And I was like, okay, well, I know that he's hurt. And I saw his head kind of drop and kind of hunch over. I was like, oh man, maybe he's almost out. And so I kind of rushed him a little bit, thinking all I had to do was throw, a handful more punches and the ref was going to be pulling me off in the story. But I didn't quite have him as hurt as I thought I did. And, the first thing the guys do when they get hurt is they go with what they know, and what he knows is leg locks. And so as soon as I, jumped in there and cracked him, he went to what he knew and jumped to that leg lock. And the first one I got out of, I started to get back up. At that point we were kind of up against the cage. I was trying to get out, and he dropped to another one again, which was kind of tricky. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. And, up against the cage like that, I couldn't really roll out of it. And he had it cinched in there pretty deep, and, that was that.
Word, yeah. Paul Harris now faces a huge obstacle career-wise as the UFC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting, and now KSW won't sign him to a fight. Are you at all sympathetic of what he's going through now?
No, actually, I'm not, because
Hell yeah.
like I've told other people, here's the thing. So I didn't really dive into this guy's history of, what he'd done before the UFC or any of that kind of stuff. All I knew is that he got popped for holding a submission in the UFC once before too long, and he got fined or something. And I knew about that, but I didn't really know about all the other stuff from before. I guess before he was in the UFC at other fight promotions, he had a history of doing the same thing. At jiu-jitsu tournaments, he had a history of doing the same thing. Even at Brazilian Top Team, Murilo Bustamante came out and said in an interview not too long ago that, that's one of the reasons he had Paul Harris leave the gym, is because he was always hurting people or holding things too long, and him and Murilo would always argue about it. And so I didn't realize how much of a problem it was. And so once all that stuff really kind of started to surface, well, no, I don't have any sympathy for the guy. I mean, it's no different than some guy getting 10 DUIs and then finally getting busted on the 11th. I mean, it was just bound to happen at some point, and this is just the final nail in the coffin for him.
I totally agree, Mike. The way that fight ended was disgusting. Two more questions, and then we'll pass it back to Ramses. We touched on your fight against Mike Dulce. A month before that, you actually faced current UFC middleweight Mark Munoz. Do you still keep up with Mark? And what do you think his chances are this weekend as an underdog against former light heavyweight Lyoto Machida?
Yeah, I mean, me and Mark are good friends. It was really a weird situation for me to fight him. I was at that point fighting at 170, believe it or not. And I literally took the fight on 2 days' notice. I was working construction at the time up at OHSU Hospital here in Portland. And I got the call saying, "Hey, do you want to fight this weekend?" And I'm like, okay. And he's like, "Oh, it's just some guy. He's coming down from heavyweight." Well, I started doing research on this guy. I was like, I knew who Mark Munoz was. He's a national champion, like I'm not dumb. And, I was looking him up on SureDog, and he had fought in like the month before at heavyweight, and he was coming down to 205. Well, I didn't have to cut weight at all, and he was cutting weight from being a heavyweight a month before. So that fight was very odd. I mean, he ended up winning a decision. It was kind of cool for me. I mean, him being a national champion in the very first round, I double-legged him. I had him over my head, slammed him. He got back up. I had his back, and then I belly-to-backed him on his head. So that was kind of my highlight of the fight. But, it went back and forth. He took me down at the very last round. We were both slugging it out for all we were worth, and he ended up getting the decision. But, he's a tough dude. I think his chances against Machida are really good. I think his ground is really good. His stand-up's come a long way. I mean, since he's actually gotten into the UFC, he's really developed a lot as a fighter. So, with Machida, though, you just got to watch out because he's got that quickness and kind of unorthodox style that you got to watch out for. But I think Mark will do all right.
Yeah, Mark is a dangerous guy, one of my favorite middleweights. Final question, Mike. Thanks again for coming on. And I got to warn you, this one definitely cuts deep. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
I'll go with the one horse-sized duck.
That's a wise answer. Very wise. Ramses?
It's a lot of meat. Mike Pierce, we will wrap it up right now. But I have to say, this past weekend I went to UFC 166 in Houston. I went there a little bit late. I showed up. My first live UFC fight that I ever saw, actually, Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez. It was crazy. It was war. People are calling it the greatest fight of all time. But I was there, and I still say that your fight against Seth Baczynski was a bigger, more epic war, at least to me watching it. That fight was amazing. You guys went the distance, fought the whole way hard. I thought somebody was going to drop dead. I didn't know which one until the very end. I was wondering, just because I'm a big fan of that fight, can you talk about the Seth Baczynski fight a little bit? Did you ever think you were in trouble in that one? It looked like he got you good at one point in the second round, I believe.
Well, first off, I don't think that fight was one of the greatest ever because I got kneed in the face too hard, man. I didn't like that at all. Yeah, that fight with Seth, I mean, he was a lot tougher than I expected. I mean, that guy can definitely grind. It was like a David and Goliath. I mean, the guy's 6'3", I'm 5'8", one of the shortest guys in the entire division. So that was one obstacle right off the bat I had to get over. And the one that I learned later on is that he doesn't really have to lift his knee up very high to crack me in the face when I'm shooting in on him. So, I mean, that was really kind of the only time where I think I was in any trouble is when he kneed me. But, I remember very clearly thinking, wow, that one really connected. As I was holding on to his leg, because I still got my single leg, I was just waiting. I was like, wow, okay, he really cracked me on that one. I was just waiting to see if I was going to bleed from my face from where he hit me. And then I saw the one drop of blood kind of land on his knee. And I was just thinking to myself, God damn it, he made me bleed. So I finished the takedown. But yeah, man, I mean, especially in that last round, I really started to feel fatigued and everything. And then come to find out later, they sent me to the hospital to get checked out and everything. And I found I had a tiny, tiny little fracture in my orbital where he kneed me. But that really was not a big concern to them. They said, oh, yeah, that'll heal fine. You don't even need surgery for that. But they found some air in my chest cavity that's obviously not supposed to be there, and they were worried about that, on my flight home from Australia to the States at altitude, it expanding and putting pressure on other organs and stuff. So they were trying to figure out, like, how that got in there or, why it was there to begin with. And so I had to, like, swallow all these weird liquids and, have all these images taken to figure out if there was a hole somewhere in my esophagus or wherever, to figure out how that air got in there. And they didn't really find anything. They don't know how it got in there. They don't know if it happened, in the fight. They said it could happen from, him hitting me or me lifting him up. Any kind of strain like that could have had like a little pinhole size hole somewhere to allow that air to get in there. But while that air was in there, it really kind of it reminded me of when I fought in Colorado when I was at altitude, and I really started to feel that, lack of oxygen. Yeah. And so, I don't know, I didn't like it because I knew I was in shape. When I was at the hospital, my resting heart rate was 42 beats a minute, so it wasn't a lack of me being in shape. It just, I couldn't take the right amount of breath, because they had that air inside my chest cavity. It was really weird.
So they never figured it out?
No, they never figured out where it came from, and it healed up just fine. The air went away on its own. So everything was fine. It hasn't happened since.
Yeah, well, all right. We'll just forget about it then. No problem. But yeah, you're not giving yourself enough credit. That war with Seth Baczynski, it played out like a Rocky movie, man. I'm telling you. And just a quick comment from coming in from the Twitter, Yao the Truth, one of our friends. He just wanted to let you know. He just wanted us to tell you that he thought you beat Koscheck as well. Yao is the dude from Queens. He's an amateur, aspiring MMA fighter, winning all these jiu-jitsu medals or whatever. So he's a big fan of you, it appears. And I also agree with you, man, on Paul Harris, man. The dude was a repeat offender, needed to be stopped. He is like a bad character out of a bad martial arts movie. It's ridiculous. He's the dirty fighter, like personified. And it's good that we got him out of there and that we're keeping you in. Hopefully you'll be back soon, as soon as possible for us, man. But, for right now, relax. Get yourself a PS3. Add me on the network. We'll play some GTA 5. I'm getting a crew together, man.
All right. Sounds like fun.
All right. We'll go ahead and let you go. Thank you again for all your time, Mike Pierce. Is there anywhere that people can contact you and reach you? Or you keep in touch with the fans or not? What's up?
Just on Facebook and Twitter. It's the handles at Mike Pierce 170. Same thing for Facebook, Mike Pierce 170.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, UFC welterweight Mike Pierce, one of the best in the business. We will hopefully have you on again soon. Wishing you nothing but the best. Say hello to the family for us. Well, hopefully Jamie Huey's still there. Are you still there, Coach?
I'm still here, folks.
Okay, we'll get to you in 1 second. But, Mike, thanks again for coming on, man.
Not a problem, guys. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
All right, Mike.
Bye.
There he goes, Mike Pierce. And thank you, Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey, for putting that interview together, man. Wow.
Oh, anytime, man. Yeah, Mike's a good guy. He's known him for a long time. He's a solid person, man. I always enjoyed being around Mike and his family. His dad and his mom and his brother and his girlfriend Crystal. Follow her on Optimus Prime, Optimus_Prime, I think. She's awesome. She's one of my favorite people in the world, and she's actually got some of the most creative tweets on Twitter too. So she's right up there with Forrest Griffin in my book when it comes to the Twitter stuff she comes up with. So
no, she's definitely awesome. Shout out to Crystal. It is at Optimus with 2 S's, Miss Optimus_Prime. Follow her right now immediately, people. Coach Jamie, obviously we have to talk about the breaking news from last night. Wow. Seems like we're back to square one again here almost. But
you're talking about the government shutdown, I assume, correct?
Oh yes, the healthcare site not working. I mean, what else are we going to talk about here?
That's what I figured That's what I figured you meant by that.
That's right. Hell no. We're talking about international fight news, people. Coach Jamie Huey, Chael Sonnen is once again going to be coaching the Ultimate Fighter against Wanderlei Silva in Brazil. I got to ask, did you know about this ahead of time? Obviously, even Chael was pretending like he didn't know when Dan dropped the news last night. But what is there anything you can tell us about this? Are you pumped for it? Do you think you might be a part of it, coaching again? What's your take on it?
I can't say. It's not really my place to say. I think I'd probably wait for Chael to make an announcement on that. I did talk to him. He tweeted me or he texted me last night. I do have a passport.
Yeah.
That's all I really can say about that. But
right. So you're not confirming anything, but
I'm not confirming nor denying the allegations. But the first 4 letters in Team Darkside, kind of says says a lot. But I'm not. I'm not really sure what I can say yet or what I can't say, so maybe I won't say anything.
I hear you. Well, let's talk in hypotheticals then. The dark side is going to live on. It is going to get resurrected. Let's just say you are a part of it. You ever been to Brazil before?
Never been to Brazil.
Damn.
Never been. No.
Huh, you're going to get some kind of practice. You'll learn half of the language. Aren't you, you're actually going to Mexico soon. Is that correct? Can you tell us about that?
I leave for Mexico City. There's a big seminar down there at a gym called Bone Crushers in Mexico City. Sponsored by Hero, Bad Boy, and then Fighters Only magazine. They're flying me down there to do a boxing seminar Thursday at the Bone Crusher gym. Kind of a boxing for MMA, how boxing, some of the subtle differences in regards to, obviously a Pernell Whitaker style boxer wouldn't fare well in MMA. So, just kind of some of the things that I've learned throughout the years, is a boxing coach being my background, but what things are applicable to MMA and what things aren't. So, my experience is basically working with guys like Mike Pierce that we just talked to, Chael, Yushin Okami and Kelvin and Uriah and all the guys from the show and Chris Folsom and Liz McCarthy and Justin Mark and all the guys that I've worked with throughout the years. I'm sorry if I'm leaving anybody out here. Just kind of what works and what doesn't. I've really kind of mixed in a lot of the elbow game into my boxing, not from a Muay Thai base, but more from a boxing base. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, going down there and meeting some of the guys in Mexico. Ironically, on a personal note, the first guy I ever fought as a professional was a guy named Jose Martinez from Mexico City. So I don't know. I guess I kind of got a little bit of a hope that I end up running into him because we actually ended up becoming friends after that fight. So, Mexico City. Hope I'm not going to get kidnapped and held for ransom. But other than that, I'm looking forward to it. I've got my buddy Danny from Luce Pop looking out for me, and Fighters Only magazine and everybody. So it's going to be a good time.
I was going to ask, Coach, do you speak Spanish?
Not really, no. No, I understand. I understand a little bit. And then, I can get by with a word here, word there. But, no, I would definitely say I'm not far from fluent.
Nice. Well, you're gonna learn. You're gonna have to pick some up, I'm guessing, man. Huh. Well, I guess you've worked with fighters that didn't speak a word of English before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okami, right? Okami.
Yeah. I've worked with Yushin for a long time. My boxing program, the Beaverton Powell Boxing Gym, me and Coach Charlie Rios founded about 13, 14 years ago. I would say probably, if we have 60 kids down there because of the demographics of where the gym's located, I would say we're probably upwards of 90% Hispanic, first and second generation. So, I'm around it all the time, basically.
I'll teach you a few phrases, man. I got the Latin thing going on myself. Jake from the MMA podcast, you got something for Coach Huey, don't you?
Yeah, I got one question that's been on my mind since the announcement was made that Chael was going to be a tough Brazil coach. Coach Jamie Huey, how does Zuffa plan on protecting America's most valuable asset all the way down in South America?
That's a great question. Shout out to MMA Roasted. He had a great tweet today. He said, Chael Sonnen just announced his coaching staff will be made up of SEAL Team 6. So I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure. When we were going to fight Anderson, I believe the second time in Brazil, they were actually talking about I don't know if there was a island off the coast somewhere, or
better be
bringing us in on helicopters. To be honest with you, I don't have any information. I'm completely speculating. I don't even know when we start filming or anything, but I think when they start filming, I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're gonna do. I'm sure there'll be a lot of security. That's my guess.
Word, yeah. Yeah, I also recently Wanderlei tweeted out that it's going to be a more tough or a Brazil versus USA thing, and that he would be picking Brazilian fighters and Chael would be picking American fighters. Is that something you can comment on, or is that another thing you want to spare no comment for?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't have any details on that stuff. And it's not that I'm really even hiding anything. I really do not know. Somebody tweeted something, or who was I? I was talking to somebody that had read that it was going to be an all Brazilian show on both teams. So, we would actually be, or the team, the Chaels would actually be coaching, all Brazilians as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to work. I really don't. I don't know if it's going to be USA versus Brazil, or if it'll be Brazil versus Brazil with Chael running a team. I really don't have a clue. It's kind of one of those things. If they end up with an all Brazilian team on both sides, I really don't see that being a problem. Everybody kind of really likes to play up the whole Chael versus Brazil thing, but anybody knows Chael, and he's going to do the right thing for the fighters. And he actually does have a lot of support down there. There's a soccer team that's named after Chael. Anderson Silva sponsors one of the soccer teams down there, so their arch rivals by default ended up naming themselves, Team Sonnen or what, I can't remember what it is in Portuguese. But so there is a lot of support for him down there. I've been to numerous, UFC events with them, and we get Brazilian fans coming up, coaches from Brazil. I mean, it's hype. Vinny Magalhães was, he's a Team Darkside guy. He's, from Brazil. And, we've had, Fabiano Schurner was one of the first guys I ever worked with. He's been a old school Team Quest Brazilian coach. I mean, so, people like to get caught up in the national rivalry type stuff. And obviously Chael, plays that up, but, there's no hard feelings or ill will to anything like that. I mean, we've got a lot of support from people in Brazil. So, but there is an element of people that, want to take it to the next level. So, I'm sure there'll be security and everything will be copacetic as far as the safety of the team, the fighters and the coaches.
Yeah, the quote from Chael, it wasn't Portuguese, but the quote from Wanderlei. Wow, what a slip up there.
Yep.
It's in Portuguese, and translated it says, "He chooses his fighters back in the USA. I choose mine here." So we will definitely see. I have one more question before I pass it back. We're not sure who will be doing what down in Brazil, but is there any chance that TUF 17 champion and runner-up Kelvin Gastelum and Uriah Hall might be a part of Team Sonnen?
I really don't have any information on that, to be honest with you. These guys are focused on obviously their career. They both got fights coming up. Kelvin's got a tough fight with Court McGee, and Uriah Hall's got a tough fight with Chris Leben. So, really these guys need to focus on that. That would be obviously a decision that Chael would make if, what he decides to do with that. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But, I mean, those guys are always, those guys are Team Darkside guys. Those are our friends. Those are our, I was actually happy to read somewhere today, Jimmy Quinlan's over in Manchester working with Luke Barnett for his fight in Manchester this weekend. Oh, yeah. And Chael's actually going over there to do the Q&A, and he's going to be cornering Luke. So, oh, wow. I'm really proud of what we did on Team 17. As far as we kind of really built some relationships with our team, and these guys are still sticking together and doing things. So whatever happens, as far as down in Brazil, I don't think it's going to be anything different. I think if you put the emphasis on the guys and the fighters and them winning and being successful, then it doesn't really matter who's a part of it or not. I mean, that's really the goal is to get these guys on the winning track, and I'm watching it happen with the guys from the 17. So I don't think Brazil would be any different.
Word, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. We have a ton of time to talk about TUF Brazil, but next month, Chael versus Evans. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Las Vegas, Coach. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, obviously, got Rashad in front of him, and that's a tough fight for anybody. So, I know Chael's down there working with Dan Henderson. He was up in Portland. I helped mitts for him a couple weeks ago before I left to come over here to the East Coast, and he's looking good, looking strong, man. He's I really like him at 205. I think I prefer Chael fighting at 205 versus 85. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Dochi knows how to do his thing and get Chael to 85, and I don't think there's a lot of people that would be able to do that because Chael carries really. He's a big kid, but overall, I think he is just so much stronger and faster at 205. So, we've got to focus on Rashad first. So, but after that, yeah, Brazil's next on his list.
No, I agree that Chael definitely is looking better at 205, and the fact that he beat Shogun, I think he needed that confidence boost he knows that he can compete swing away with the best of them now. I'm glad that happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when you watch John Jones fight Shogun for the title, I mean, that was a good fight before, I mean, John started obviously finding his rhythm and caught him, but I mean, that was the champion before John took his belt. So, Chael getting in there and doing what he did to Shogun as fast as he did, speaks volumes to where he is.
That's right.
In his career at this point.
You're damn right, man. For the record, anybody that hasn't been paying attention, Mr. Sonnen did defeat Shogun faster than John Jones did, therefore making Chael Sonnen better than John Jones. That's some word on the street math for you. Some fight logistics there. Coach, obviously, if you're going to Brazil, if you are going to be a part of Team Sonnen once more, I got to say, man, we got to do this whole thing over again, man. You got to get me in good with the team, get me some good interviews. It's going to be a little difficult there, but hopefully you'll keep reporting from Brazil if possible. If you do end up there, of course, you're not confirming or denying anything. But if you do end up in Brazil, man, we'll get you hooked up with some Skype. We'll get you on doing some reports here, some feeding us whatever information you can. Hopefully you're down for that.
Oh, you guys know, man. Anything I can say or I'm able to say within the perimeters of obviously what Dana and Craig and everybody say is okay and what's not okay. You guys are my exclusive podcast. So it'll always be on the word on the street before it's anywhere else.
Hell yeah, we actually pulled it off TUF 17. We pulled it off, man. I think we did it without, I don't remember us giving away anything or slipping up or anything like that.
And I know the UFC, they're very on top of that stuff.
Yep.
You sign a contract after the season's over. You sign one before the season starts, and they're very specific about what you can say, what you can't, it takes common sense, obviously, and always err on the side of caution. But, obviously anything good promoting the season is good for everybody. And they want that type of people out there tweeting and talking and getting excited. And, Wanderlei Silva versus Chael Sonnen. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? What's bigger than that? There's not a bigger fight or
bigger beef
or rivalry out there that you would be able to market on that type of level. And I like, contrary to the Team Dark Side patch that I wear with pride. As good as John Jones is, maybe the only rivalry, maybe him and Rashad, but even then, I like John, but John's really not a Wanderlei or a Chael when it comes to really getting out there and kind of doing what needs to be done in order to get people excited about it. So, despite Wanderlei showing up with his camera phone and some of the funnier comments that could be made about some of the things. This is really going to be. This has the potential to be really big for ratings. So I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah, finally, people in America are actually going to watch TUF Brazil. Well, people in the United States, I should say. Brazil, South America versus North America. I love it, man. I can't wait. Honestly.
Yeah, it's great. That's what needs to happen. I mean, that's the future of the sport. If you look at the biggest sport in the world is being soccer, you see how these nations get behind their teams. So, Dana's privy to that. He knows what he's doing, and if you can get the Americans behind the Americans, and the UK behind the UK, and Brazil and all these countries rallying behind their guys, their teams, their fighters. That's really what's going to grow the sport to the next level. They just signed the kid over there from Japan. I mean, you have to have these national heroes in order to get the UFC into all these other doors. And and continue to grow it to be even bigger. I mean, people look at the UFC and they talk about the amount of fights now, and there's too many of them, and they're every weekend. But you don't hear people say that about soccer. You don't hear people say that about football, baseball. I don't think the UFC needs to be any different. I mean, you're going to have your favorite fighters, but if the sport is at the level of like an NFL, I mean, it's going to be hard to keep up with all of them. I don't watch every football game. In fact, I don't watch hardly any football games, but I know people that follow teams. So it's going to be interesting to see what it evolves in. But this is definitely the first part to that.
Yeah, I'm at the point where like I'm disappointed if I check and there's no fight that week. Like I can't get enough. It should be a regular thing weekly. Bring it on. They should triple the roster, triple the fights. In my opinion, it's never enough.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy I enjoy having fights on every weekend. And then if they throw one in on a Wednesday night, that's even better. Especially the free ones. I mean, who can complain about that? If you see it, you do. If you don't, you don't. Maybe the UFC is going to develop some type of a channel or something that, you can request a certain fight, if you missed it from last weekend. And I mean, I don't see, I was in telecommunications for 15 years. And I kind of see where they can go with some of the streaming video and the way that the internet TV, the smart TVs are coming out. And I mean, sky's the limit with this stuff.
No kidding.
If you have, they have 10 cards on a fight card and you didn't happen to catch it, but you kept hearing about the Diego Sanchez, Melendez fight and you want to see it, you just go on your smart TV, request it, and bam, there it is. And maybe you skipped a couple fights on the undercard that weren't worth watching, or you weren't really privy to who the fighters are. So, it's just going to continue to keep. Yeah, it'll just continue, man. It's going to continue to keep getting bigger.
That would be fucking awesome, like a Netflix for the UFC fights. That'd be awesome, man. Just on demand.
Why not?
I know.
Yeah,
why not?
Really,
why not?
Yeah, that's really where it's going. I mean, you look at major cable providers like Comcast, and you're stuck with the channels they're giving you. But when you get into like the Apple TVs or the Netflix or whatnot, I mean, it's kind of on demand request. It's IP based streaming video, kind of similar to like a YouTube. And these smart TVs, you don't even need cable boxes for these things now. You can basically, your TV is merging in with your computer where you can get on there and, hey, I want to watch that Diego Sanchez fight, and I got some buddies coming over, and I've got 30 minutes and 2 beers in the fridge, and you're going to watch it, and then you head off to do what you're going to do. But it's fun, man. It's going to be fun to see where this stuff goes.
Definitely. And you brought it up. Actually, last question before we let you go. Sorry for taking up so much of your time. The Diego Sanchez Gilbert Melendez fight. You being a boxing coach, not the most technical boxing we've ever seen, but what was your take on that fight and the fact that it was just pure striking for the most part?
My take on that fight is I'm kicking myself for missing it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, man. I'm out here in Detroit, so I was I had some other things going on, and I keep hearing about how great it was on Twitter. Dana's saying it was one of the greatest fights of all time. So I'm definitely, I wish that technology I was talking about earlier existed, because I would probably pull it up and watch it right now.
Well, you may or may not receive a YouTube link from an anonymous source here in a couple minutes.
That would be great, man. Yeah. So, I didn't get to see it, but I enjoy a good, here's how late in some of this stuff I am. I mean, I get so much of it. I'm in the gym. I'm working with fighters. It's hard to keep up with all of it, but I'm definitely glad it is available when I do want to see it. I just barely watched the Timothy Bradley Marquez fight.
See, I haven't seen that one.
Or the day before. Oh, it was a great fight. I mean, Bradley really put on a technical really put on a technical fight, and I believe that he did win probably. I think I had him up like he won 9 out of 12 rounds, but none of them were really shutout rounds, so it was close enough to be really interesting. Although I thought he did just enough with his jab and putting Marquez on defense to win the majority of those rounds, but. It was great. It was a great fight to watch, man. There's so much good, striking out there in boxing that you're starting to kind of see it. Well, you're not starting. There's some good boxers at the UFC level too. Obviously, not probably at the level as a professional boxer, but it's hard to catch it all, man. There's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah, I'll have to have an anonymous source send me a link to that fight. But Coach, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ramses, before you let Coach go, I think Ross actually had a question.
Oh, Ross, there you are. I'm sorry I missed that you wanted to chime in and had something from Mike Pierce, man. I'm sorry beyond words that I didn't see it or get to you, honestly. But Ross, what's up, man?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 1941 all over again. The Jew is getting snubbed. They're treating me like shit here on the Word on the Street podcast. But
I know, man.
But I do have a question for you, Coach Huey. UFC 167 weekend, Team Darkside, and by Team Darkside I mean me, Jake, and Alan, are going to invade Wanderlei's gym. We are going to make a statement.
A dojo storm.
Will you be willing to join Team Darkside and maybe more people in invading the Wanderlei fight gym?
I have to double check if I'm going to be there for that event. I've actually got a couple fighters that I've kind of inadvertently committed to prior. I'm waiting to see if a boxing card ends up getting pulled or not. If I'm there, yeah, absolutely, man. I got you guys' back. But I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with a couple other things before I even know if I'm going yet. So that's kind of my situation on that. And I also wanted to thank you personally, Ross, for the great Photoshop you did for me, man, with the poster that I'm actually going down to Mexico with. Helped me kind of clean that up a little bit, man. And I just wanted to let you know I appreciated that. And you got a favor when you need one, man. Hit me up.
Definitely, no problem, man. Thank you.
That was a cool poster. I saw that one for sure. Huh. All right, Coach Huey, man, where can people get in touch with you? Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to bring up? I mean, what's going on? What do you hear? What do you say?
I'll be in Mexico Thursday at the Bone Crusher Gym. And after that, I will be back in Portland. I've got some fighters. I've got some amateurs fighting on a couple shows. We're having one in Beaverton at the Beaverton Powell Boxing Gym, November 23rd. I've got, the whole amateur team fighting there. Then I've got a couple of adults, Hannah, and my buddy Andy over there at the Search Doctors, who's going to be working on my website, fighting on that card. And my website is www.coachjamiehuey.com. So we're kind of in the mix of working on that website, but there is a video up there and there's some information there, on Twitter at Coach Jamie Huey. I've seen all these, other Coach Jamie Huey, Twitter accounts open up. It's kind of cool. I actually kind of appreciate that, They say you actually made it when people start
imitating
doing it on Twitter and you show up on was it Wikipedia? So I'm halfway there.
Nice.
I do appreciate all the support out there, guys. That's on Instagram at Coach Jamie Huey. I've got all sorts of my personal pictures up there from working with. Down at Mark Munos's gym and working with Uriah and Calvin and Chael and all those guys. So there's some good stuff on there. If you guys are on Instagram, check me out there as well.
Awesome.
And then hopefully check me out on the Word on the Street podcast, man. I always love coming back here, guys. I'm going to be out this Tuesday, but the following week after that. Maybe see who we can get on here for everybody.
Awesome. We'll definitely keep in touch, man. Have fun out there in the Motor City, I believe, home of RoboCop. Don't have too much fun, though. But yeah, and hopefully you'll be seeing the Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez fight here in a couple minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Right on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Coach Jamie Huey. We will talk to you soon, sir.
All right, guys. You take care.
Yeah, see you later. And there he goes, people. Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey. Obviously, originally working with Chael Sonnen as a boxing coach. And now he's worked with other fighters like Uriah Hall, Kelvin Gastelum, amateur fighters, Liz McCarthy. Jesus, he's held the mitts and for a lot of people. Too many to name. We love him to death. He's the godfather of this podcast, of the Word on the Street podcast.
That's right.
Now we're left with Jake and Ross. Jake and Ross. I look down at the screen and I just see, well, I see images of Jake and Ross, but it's not them.
It's not.
I wish I could go into it. It's a little inside, people.
Ross and I have set our Skype pictures to pictures of the legendary Yao the Truth, the MMA prospect, coming up in Queens, New York. We were giving him shit last night on the MMA podcast, kind of messing with his head a little bit. Ross, Chris, and I all set our Skype pictures to pictures of Yao. So when Yao looked up at the screen to see all of our contacts, it was just different pictures of him. He's like, guys, stop. This is really weird.
It is. And so we can kind of take a little edge off of it, and also so I can get up and get a drink real quick. My throat's drying up. Jake or Ross, can we actually say something positive about Yao? I believe he collected some more blink. Can you guys briefly go into that?
Yeah. This weekend at the ADCC trials, the East Coast trials, he was a part of the 161-pound, I believe, white belt tournament. There were 8 people in the tournament. He won his first fight via decision, moved on to the semifinals. Actually, it was really kind of weird. He said 2 of the semifinalists just didn't show up. Ramses, I'm positive you were a part of poisoning them or killing a family member or something, but nonetheless, Yao was moved directly from the semifinals into the finals. Apparently had a close fight, but lost the fight. Wasn't able to get gold. But I believe the guy he lost to had 4 stripes on his belt. Yao only has 3. He's a very young fighter. He has a long way to go, but definitely looking good. He's medaled in his last 3 tournaments he's competed in. I think he's got one in like 2.5 weeks. Ross, did I leave anything out?
You got it all.
Ross, you live by him. Why aren't you ever there supporting Yao? What is this, man?
Well, the problem is, for his next grappling tournament, it's the same weekend that I'm supposed to be in Philadelphia. And I would go, but I'm going to be in Philadelphia. And this one was on a Sunday, and I'm not getting up on Sunday after being up until about 7:30 a.m. because of UFC 166. Sorry, Yao, but that is the
truth.
Yeah.
Let's talk about UFC 166, people. Let me tell you a tale of my first time going to a live UFC event. It was on Saturday. Well, basically, I had great tickets. I had multiple tickets. I had dreams, man. I had dreams of going to this show, seeing the whole thing start to finish. But my brother decided to announce, one of his weddings on that day. Let me explain to you people. My brother had 2 wedding ceremonies. All right, 2 of them. And before that, the weekend before that, he had his bachelor party in New Orleans. Basically, he hijacked my entire month of October with stupid wedding nonsense. So, but last Saturday, not the UFC one, before that, that was the big wedding with all the friends, family, laid back, no stupid ceremony with prayers and whatnot, the good wedding, the fun one. It was nice. Then, of course, the next weekend, he happened to marry a girl that, well, her family's a little nuts. So the next weekend, we had the nice church wedding with the priest proclaiming nonsense. Everybody was old. Nobody had any fun. Just a bunch of people waiting around hoping they're not going to die. It was sad, and I had to get the fuck out of there. I sold my good tickets to UFC 166, but on the off chance that I would be able to make it, I did purchase a cheaper seat, just in the shitty section or whatever, just in case I could make it. And as I was standing there Saturday, I didn't know how I was going to play it. I was going to play it by ear. Turns out I did get a chance to sneak away. I just straight up said I wasn't feeling good and I'd be back. Nobody questioned it. They were all, just doing their church thing, celebrating whatever way they could. There was a little alcohol at the reception, so I kept everybody busy. So I drove my ass an hour. It was the wedding was between Austin and Houston, so I drove an hour straight to the arena, get in there just in time to see the first fight, which we're going to talk about. My first UFC fight that I ever saw was Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez, which is now being called one of the greatest UFC fights in history, supposedly. I personally think everybody's overreacting, but I couldn't tell at the time. I just get there. It's a crazy-ass fight. And I'm just wondering, was that fight as good as I thought it was? Or is this just how it is, how they all are when you're watching a live fight? It turns out it was a great fight. I'm lucky to have seen it. I know that Jake and Ross saw it too. But let me get your take. I was there, so I don't even know what to think, man. But in your opinion, Jake, and then Ross, I guess, whoever wants to talk, was it the greatest UFC fight in history? Sanchez versus Melendez.
I think it was the greatest fight in UFC history. It's my second favorite fight behind Bendo Cerrone 1, which obviously was in the WEC. It was just an absolute war, and both guys showed so much heart. Obviously, you had Diego who was standing in there taking these power shots from Gilbert, and then you had Gilbert who, at one point during the third round, was almost stopped. It was one of my favorite fights of all time. That third round exchange where Diego almost came back and finished Gilbert, but Gilbert rallied. That's really what pushed it into being one of my favorite UFC fights of all time, along with the main event just a few weeks ago in Jones Gustafson. We've really been lucky as MMA fans lately.
Ross, man, Melendez versus Sanchez, was it one of the greatest or the greatest UFC fight in history? What's up, man?
All right, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you guys. I'm going to drop some Jew knowledge. So everyone sitting at home right now listening to this podcast, just turn your speakers up a little bit, turn up your earbuds. Yeah, you. Yeah,
or I'm
talking to you. Exactly, I'm talking to you right now.
I'm with you.
People are calling this fight, some people are calling this fight the greatest fight of all time. Other people are calling this fight overrated. And they're saying this was not even fight of the night. Yeah, the truth.
Damn.
They're calling the Jessica Sarah Kaufman fight the fight of the night, and that was one of the good moments of the night. But that was a kickboxing match. That was a mixed martial arts match. This fight between Gilbert Melendez and Diego Sanchez was a brawl. That was a fight. The other one was a match. This one was a fight. When you talk about great fights, you talk about something that you throw away the technique, really. It's just a back-and-forth brawl. And this was one of the greatest fights in UFC history. Not the greatest. That is still held by Shogun versus Dan Henderson. But this fight, it's up there. It's in the top 5, I'd say. It's definitely the greatest 3-round fight in UFC history. And the reason why is, sure, Gilbert Melendez, he dominated this fight for 2 rounds. He beat the shit out of Diego Sanchez. It was brutal. He opened up another vagina on Diego's forehead. It was just crazy. But then Diego still manages to come back in that third round, egging him on, telling him, punch me, punch me, punch me. And they just start swinging. And he finally lands that uppercut. And the crowd just goes crazy. And everybody's freaking screaming and going nuts. Everyone's on coke. It's amazing. And
Yep, I can confirm that.
exactly. And
I was on coke.
And he goes for... I can't continue after hearing that. He goes for the choke. He tries to get the choke. Everyone's screaming because, oh my God, Diego's going to finish this fight. Then Gil turns out. He knees him in the chest. He stands back up, and they're going at it. They're swinging back and forth. He's bleeding all over the place. The bell's ringing. It's just an amazing ending. It's an amazing fight. Everyone's on their feet. Everyone's going crazy. Joe Rogan's screaming like he's insane. It's just, it's one of those moments you never, ever, 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 ever forget as an MMA fan. And it was the perfect moment at the perfect time. It was the perfect fight on the perfect card. It was just, it was amazing. And yes, it was one of the greatest fights of all time. That's what the Jew has to say.
It was, man. The arena. I was there, people. I was there. The arena started shaking when they would get into the rock'em sock'em moments. All right, there were cokes that were just spilling on the floor. You know, people lay down their coke. They were just spilling over, man. It was nuts. People were screaming. Even the white people, man. They were turning brown before my eyes. Do you understand me? That's what was happening.
Not really, but I like it.
This fight was epic, man. It was great, but it was followed by a complete stinker. Okay? And again, I was there. Big Country Roy Nelson versus Daniel Cormier was probably it was the antithesis of that fight, of the Melendez-Sanchez fight. It was complete garbage. It was boring. The hush fell over you've never seen an adrenaline dump go down between thousands of people in an arena than you did when that fucking fight happened. Or if you can't even call it a fight. Midway in the second round, nobody was even looking at the octagon. Everybody was looking at their phones, drinking their beer. One dude was seriously, I know it's cliche, but one dude was actually asleep. I promise you. All right, people were getting up to leave, get their nachos or whatever. It was just bullshit wrestling back and forth. Do any of you disagree, Jake or Ross, man? This fight was garbage. They should have cut them both after this fight. Fuck them.
I don't know if it was garbage. I mean, they definitely had a very tough match to follow. Like going into the cage after that is like trying to go on stage after Joey Diaz. It is a tough task for anybody. It wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, and I blame that mostly on Roy Nelson, who I actually just listened to the Dana White post-fight media scrum, and Dana White made a really good point. Said that Roy Nelson after the fight was saying that Cormier wasn't engaging enough. Cormier was bringing the wrestling to him. Cormier hit him in the face a ton of times. This is just another fight where Nelson broke into the top 5 and was completely outclassed. Didn't look like he deserved to be in the ring with his opponent.
I gotta say, man, nobody wanted to see, like, that's the thing I noticed right away, being at a UFC event live. Nobody wanted to see a wrestling match. Nobody wanted to see wrestling, man. People liked, I think there was maybe one, like, actual, like, body slam. I don't even remember the fight. Crowd like that, wrestling and stuff, when they're hugging the cage, you know, you eventually learn to just look up at the big screen, you know? When they're hugging the cage, you're not going to see shit. If there was no screen there, the entire arena would ask for their money back. The booing would be ridiculous if there wasn't a close-up screenshot when they get up against the cage and start hugging each other. That shit needs to go, man. I mean, you know, maybe they do need to electrify the fence or some shit. I don't know, man. The wrestling, it ain't working, man. I'm not digging it. It was no good. After that, what was it? The fucking main event. Well, it happened exactly. It played out just like I thought it would. Kane won, of course. That's not. He wasn't even the hometown hero, but you know he's brown enough. So guess what? He wins. But it was a damn crazy ass fight to watch because everyone was screaming, you know, it's over, along with you guys watching. I mean, looked like JDS was finished. That fight should have been stopped at least 3 different times. It looked like, to me, I have to say, looked like it worked to me, man. Looked like JDS took a dive, and I was there. You know what I'm saying? I should have been all wrapped up in the thrill of seeing it live and just being like, oh, man, it's badass. Now, if you notice, the first time Kane knocks him down in round 1, JDS is totally conscious. He's kind of just looking up at him from the ground. It was that was funny to watch in person. I was like, wait, why isn't he he was hesitating. He was just like planted there. It was weird. That was a weird moment I noticed, along with, of course, something else I'll get to here in a second. But I actually haven't heard your impressions of the fight. Jake, what the fuck did you think of the main event? JDS versus Cain Velasquez.
My impression of the fight would be ow, 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 because it was just more of the same we saw in 155. Velasquez just beat him up. He definitely got wobbled for a second, like a couple seconds into the fight. But yeah, just a one-sided beatdown.
They're saying the report today is that Cain Velasquez got his jaw broken or something at some point. Obviously, that was probably during the first round. Off the top of your head, do you? Shit, it was probably the first 1 or 2 punches that JDS landed. Did you see anything like that? Oh shit, Ross is gone. What the fuck, Ross? We lost Ross, people.
Son of a bitch.
I don't believe this, man. That's why you never trusted you.
Damn straight. Yeah, I think if he broke his jaw, I was actually talking to Ross earlier about this. If it was serious, he had made a very good point in that if the broken jaw was serious, he probably would have gotten it wired shut or something. I assume it's just like a hairline fracture maybe or something. I don't know, but we know for a fact that Junior punches with enough power to crack someone's jaw.
Yeah, well, Cain Velasquez retains his belt. He is the Mexican crown champion. He's going to move, you know, we need that territory in the UFC, people. It needs to happen. Cain needs to make it happen. So that's why you get the result that you saw on Saturday. Hate to be the conspiracy theorist, as always. Actually, I love it. Who the fuck am I kidding?
Yo, speaking of conspiracy theories, what did you think about the Tim Boetsch judge's decision?
Oh, God, Tim Boetsch, man. Actually, I thought that was fair game because, I mean, the dude was fighting dirty. That was when we got poked in the eye, right? He got the point deducted.
Well, the thing was, everyone I saw on Twitter, everyone, most people were giving 3 rounds to Dalloway. Some people gave 2 rounds to Dalloway. The judges gave all 3 rounds to Tim Boetsch and took a point away from Dalloway, making it 32-26. You know me, I am not one to usually say, oh, it's a work, so-and-so, it's fixed, collusion, blah, blah, blah. And in fact, I'm usually the one trying to, you know, play off whatever you're claiming about it. But the fact that 2 judges saw it to Boetsch, this is either a case of extreme coincidental just judges being inept on an extreme level, or there was a little bit of collusion going on. There were some bets placed in Tim Boetsch's favor. Everyone knew Boetsch would probably win. But just in case he didn't, a couple judges got a little bit of a paycheck.
I don't know, man. Usually I do lean towards this. I'll jump on it. But the thing is, it's a Tim Boetsch versus Dalloway fight. I don't see any real end game or payout here. Like, you know what I mean? I don't see any reason. I'd have to say this was more the fact that basically Dalloway was fighting dirty. He poked the dude in the eye twice. Everyone in the crowd was, if you notice, everyone was booing the shit out of Dalloway. after the fouls. I mean, holy shit! It's like the judges listen to that too. I bet. I mean, the dude wasn't fighting fair, so I think the judgment rendered was fair given the fight in its entirety. If that makes sense. What the hell is Ross talking about?
I don't know.
Anyway,
We got to move on past that, I guess, for the time being at least.
yeah, I don't know what's going on, people. I'm just trying to interview Mr. Mike Pierce, talk to Jamie Huey, get a podcast rolling while I'm, just having a little midnight cocktail, a little smoke here, trying to keep it all together, not sound too screwed up on the podcast for you people, and then I'm looking down at the chat from time to time. Sometimes I forget, you're having a smoke and a drink, you're chatting with your friends about some MMA. I don't know. Just having a good time. Good times, Jake.
That's what it's all about. Good times.
I guess. Oh, yeah, the one thing I did want to talk about before we get the hell out of here. Well, I'll just briefly say, at some point, it was like between rounds, I forget which round it was, probably after the third round in the JDS versus Kane fight, Junior Dos Santos was in his corner between rounds, like I said, and I swear to God, from my seat, so I don't know if it was a light shining in my eye, some glint, some sweat, some random optical illusion that formed somehow, but I swear to God, for 1 second, I was looking at JDS and I saw him, and his face switched, if you were to see somebody flip an eyelid for a second and then flip it back down. That happened to his entire face for a second. It was the damnedest, weirdest thing I've ever seen. It only lasted not even a full second. But I know what I saw, man. I'm not saying he's a reptilian shape-shifting lizard from outer space, but I did see what I appeared to be someone shapeshift for a brief moment. Something happened to him. It was weird. It freaked me out. I was like, should I even bring this shit up, man? It's pretty fucked up, man. And you probably just blinked, I probably blinked with a light in my eye or something, and I saw him burned into my retina, but except it was, something like that. But this shit looked too real, and it just gave me an immediate, creepy sensation, man. I can't describe it, otherwise I would. But you heard it first, the word on the street, Junior Dos Santos is a reptilian.
Yo, I mean, I seen Junior Dos Santos, and I seen reptiles. Yeet.
That's true. That's basic logic, man. You put two and two together, what do you get?
Junior Dos Santos is a shape-shifting reptilian alien cyborg. Yeet.
That's right, people. Last just brief topic. Jake, dude, everyone's talking about how JDS's corner should have thrown in the towel. Should that be allowed in MMA, in the UFC? What's your take on a corner throwing in the towel for a fighter?
Oh, it certainly should. It definitely should. I mean, whatever high contact sport you have, whether it's MMA, football, these guys are going to push themselves as hard as they can. These are warriors, whether they're concussed, whether they got two broken legs, they're going to keep on pushing forward. And for a lot of guys, like case in point, Junior Dos Santos during 166, they have too much heart for their own good. I mean, Junior even said after the fight he had no recollection of the fight after round 2. Should somebody who can't even remember what was happening be making the decision of whether he can keep fighting, or should his corner, who typically someone's corner is filled with people who know you, know your habits, both in the way you talk between rounds and in the way you fight, and they'll be able to tell if you're a zombie and you aren't looking aggressive and you're not going to win the fight and you're just eating damage, there's no reason to keep on going forward. And it's really important that corners have the option to make that decision for their fighter.
I gotta say, I thought it was against the rules. I swear I remember reading somewhere that throwing in the towel was not allowed. I checked today, but the official rule in the book right now is that only the ref can stop the fight. Only the ref can stop the fight. I think that's the case with throwing in the towel too. You know, they throw it in, whatever. But I don't think it should be done. We just need better refs, man. You know, you need to have a good ref. You can't leave it up to a corner because that's just a little easy way out, man. Because we do see some fighters from time to time that like to come up with excuses for every loss, man. And you just know it would only be a matter of time for it. Someone was like, man, I was still going, but it was my corner. He threw in the towel. That's the only reason I lost the fight. Or people contesting actual stoppages. How's the ref supposed to know if it came from the corner, if it came from the damn crowd, or from the other side? I don't see it working with a cage. I mean, I don't see it working in the UFC. Fuck throwing in the towel. JDS, he was on his feet. He took the punishment. He claims he doesn't remember the last 2 or 3 rounds. I believe him. But that just proves how fucking amazing that is. And once again, Kane failed to knock him out. To truly knock him out. People calling Kane the best heavyweight ever. I don't know, man. I wasn't too impressed. I saw
he
him
was
fight.
The best heavyweight ever before this fight. What are you talking about?
I saw him fight, man. It's just, yeah, I'm gonna, just push you up against the cage, wear you down, throw you down, try to get mount, just try to hurt you in close, do damage. He's a pressure fighter, pressure wrestler. I don't see any technical badass striking out of him. If there was a Kane with like a tool set of striking, that would be the best heavyweight ever. But Kane, man, he ain't there, man.
Knocked out Big Nog on the feet.
Big Nog? Who the fuck is Big Nog? Come on, man.
He has a bus for a pet. You've heard of him.
I'm just not a believer in Kane, dude. I mean, he's great. He's good. He's one of the best. He's top. He's number 1 in the division right now. But greatest heavyweight fighter? I don't know, man. That remains to be seen, in my opinion. I just don't see anything truly impressive or flashy about him, and I guess that's my problem. You got to do some sort of flash a little bit, man. You can grind your way. You can grind your way, but then, you're going to be a GSP. Some people you're never going to earn their respect. You're never going to be their favorite fighter. But no, congratulations where it's due. Cain Velasquez, heavyweight UFC champion. Putting to bed JDS once and for all. Moving on. Good luck, I guess. Oh, yes.
Oops.
Thank you, Jake. No, you're just in time, actually. People, that is it for the Word on the Street podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Mike Pierce for coming on. Coach Jamie, the Living Legend, Huey. Crystal Optimist _Prime on Twitter. Ross Finkelstein himself. Yeah, the Truth Officer, Alan. Ray from the MMA Mental. Well, Ray at MMA Mental. Jake from the MMA Podcast. What do you got going on this week? Where can people reach you?
Just follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Visit themmapodcast.com. We do it Monday nights. We'll catch you live then.
God bless you all. We'll see you next week, man. Check it out, man. We're out of here.
The nightmare dreams, the root of all evil. Weak fear me, yeah. Somebody go